We're back for another bonus episode of Cinemaholics. Once again, I am your usual co-host, Will, and I am joined once again by our good friend, Corey Woodruff. Hey, Corey.
Well, it's good to be here.
Forgot to mention you are, as the listeners probably know, a film critic for the Nashville Scene, and you're now an editor for is it Williamson homepage?
You got it. That's yes. Correct, yeah.
And you're a Rotten Tomatoes approved critic, so you are legit. Too legit to quit.
Apparently, yeah. Sure, but, why
not? We're going to put that to the test, I guess, with this latest review. So, rather understandably, John opted not to want to join us for this belated review of Madea Homecoming. I guess technically it's Tyler Perry's Madea Homecoming, or rather Netflix Tyler Perry's Madea Homecoming. I want to say 12th or 11th Madea feature film.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, 12 excluding the animated film.
Yeah, not count. Okay, yeah. So Medea's Tough Love. And what I was going to say, I have seen, for reasons unknown, I have seen every single Madea feature film, including Medea's Tough Love, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the only one that Tyler Perry neither wrote nor directed. But I do believe he is the voice of Madea in that. I could be wrong as well. It's been a long time since I've seen it. But to my surprise, you've also seen nearly all of the Madea films as well.
I have indeed. I have seen all of the Madea films outside of the Boo subset of Madea films, right. the horror spinoffs.
Yeah. And that's funny because Boo and Madea Halloween is the only one I've seen in theaters. The rest I've watched on DVD or at home. And would you say you consider yourself a fan of the franchise, or are you more like me and you're just kind of casually fascinated by them?
I'm somewhere in the middle. Okay. I have a weird relationship with these movies because I don't know. I try to find the good in them because I feel like there is good there in all of these movies somewhere. Some of them less so than others, but they're just interesting. Kind of, no one really makes movies quite like this anymore. This is kind of it's very 90s, obviously. It's kind of offshooting the Nutty Professor films, and really just kind of Eddie Murphy's entire film of playing multiple characters. Tyler Perry kind of built off of that to kind of make his own movie franchise with this character that, Madea, which is, the thing that kind of made his career. So, I've seen them in theaters. I've watched them at home. I can't remember the last time I've seen actually a Madea movie in a movie. Actually, no, I did for Medea's family funeral. I went to go see that.
Oh man, yeah, you did that as a double feature. I think you told me with the Beach Bum, the Harmony Korine film.
Yes, I did. It was a very interesting movie night at the movies. It was very strange, but yes, that was quite a double feature.
I mean, I would say on paper that's bizarre, but actually watching the films, that's not terribly bizarre. I don't think they both have kind of a Shaggy Dog quality to them in different ways.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Certainly, I would say Beach Bum, a film that I've grown to actually like, I think, more since we've discussed on the show.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would certainly say it's a better film, but we can discuss Madea films in full in a little bit. First, I did actually, I mean, the reason I wanted to do this review, especially with you, is because I find myself in a sort of similar position with Tyler Perry, where it's very easy to write him off. Like, as he's not a very competent filmmaker. He makes movies fairly quick, fairly cheap. The quality, generally, especially in the later half of his career, has been pretty lackluster. And he makes movies like on the cheap, and just you can kind of tell, like, the production values are low. The performances often vary. You can tell he's not really wrangling the set so much. He's kind of getting it done as quickly, as cheaply as possible. But there's something very fascinating about Tyler Perry as both a filmmaker and as a public figure, because he's very much a American dream type story. He is someone who is now a literal billionaire. Like, he owns like a town in, I want to say Atlanta, Georgia, or near Atlanta, Georgia. He owns like the studio town, but like, he's a guy who, like, he really worked his way into fame. Like, he had to prove himself. Like, he was, I think he was basically poor for a number of years. Like, they were trying to get his way as a playwright, and he's found success through the character of Madea, who I mean, has been this hugely influential figure, but also one that's obviously fairly problematic for reasons I think people can naturally assume. But there is something also fairly progressive about Madea as a cultural figure. Like you said, like it's not like something like The Night Professor where like Eddie Murphy is already an A-list star and he kind of he takes on like a Jerry Lewis film and he becomes, even bigger. This is a character that was fully formed from his working class upbringing. It's very much based in his Southern background and it has a lot of truth in there. And I think that's kind of what you're getting to, or what you were alluding to, is that like even when it is broad stereotypical comedy, there is some truth to what he often says with these characters absolutely. And this humor. And I think that is one of the key reasons why this has proven to be so successful for him over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's easy to look at the negative aspects to Tyler Perry's films, particularly. He's directed movies outside of the Madea franchise for sure. I mean, he's, almost doing a movie a year, maybe sometimes even one or two movies a year.
He's been doing about 1 to 2 films per year with the exception, I think, of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But if he's not doing a film, he has like a lot of shows through OWN, the Oprah Winfrey Network. And I think he has done a few through BET, and now he has like the Netflix contract. So in addition to being a very, hardworking filmmaker, he does like these shows and he like apparently writes them all. Like he does like every script. His work ethic is insane.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he's like, I know that the phrase hardest working man in show business is kind of trite, but he really might be the hardest working man in show business. I mean, there's been very few people to be as prolific as he has over the last decade, in terms of just making things and whether the things are good or not, it's up to, the audience. But by and large, a lot of his work has been, pretty critically panned, but, I do have a soft spot for the Madea movies, I'll be honest. And I think some of it is regional. It's kind of like when we did our Ernest excavation.
Oh, yes.
For those that don't know, 2 years ago, Will and I watched all of the Ernest films. Not
for
in
no real reason.
Order. No, we just did it. That was our way of coping with the pandemic. Yeah. Like some people, exercise. Some people, try to like connect with old friends.
Bread.
Yeah, they make bread. Walk, spend time in nature. We watched all the Ernest movies.
Yeah, and I don't regret it for a second. I think that was
no
a highlight of a very dour year. Yeah, we watched every single one.
That's the difference. Yeah. We watched most of them together too. It was great.
Yeah, no,
great memory. We'll do it again someday. Not the Ernest movies. Maybe not. Maybe like a different film version.
Maybe. I think Ernest is. Well, I don't know. There's something, I guess, timeless and very much of their time with the Ernest films, and I guess that's kind of true for the Madea films as well.
I think so.
But I mean, I guess one of the key differences between Ernest and Madea is that like Madea, the Ernest only really lasted 1, maybe 2 decades. Medea's been around for what 20 or 30 years at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Madea got her start in. I'm looking at. Madea has an entire fictional biography on her Wikipedia page. So if you're,
I was gonna say, well,
99.
That's when the play started, right?
Yeah. And then the first film was 2005.
Right. Was the first play Diary of a Mad Black Woman as well?
No, first play was I Can Do Battle by Myself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the films...
That was at least her first appearance.
Right. Yeah, so the Madea franchise has been thus far Diary of a Mad Black Woman, like you said, in 2005, followed by Medea's Family Reunion in 2006. That was the first one that he, I think, directed as well as wrote. Because the first one, I forget who directed that film, but he was only...
Darren Grant.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Who did nothing... lots of music videos.
Yeah,
it appears, and then
probably a lot of TV
movies.
Work. Yeah. But you can kind of tell because there's like a different feel to that one. Like it feels more like a film than
absolutely.
Whereas the other films, for better or for worse, have taken on more of a kind of like sitcom-y vibe. In 2008, there was Meet the Browns. Then in 2009, there was Madea Goes to Jail. Then there was also in 2009, I Can Do Battle by Myself, which is more like she's like a supporting character in that film. Though I guess he's kind of a supporting character in the earlier films as well. I'll talk about that in a bit. Then there's Medea's Big Happy Family in 2011, Medea's Witness Protection in 2012, A Madea Christmas in 2013, Boo! A Madea Halloween in 2016, followed by Boo 2, A Madea Halloween in 2017, A Madea Family Funeral in 2019, and now we have Netflix's latest film, A Madea Homecoming. I was blanking on the title. But yeah, I mean, the fascinating thing about this is that in 2019, Madea was essentially done. Like Tyler Perry, I think even said like, to quote him or to paraphrase him, he said something like, "I killed that old bitch" or something like that. Like he was very much like, I have exhausted this character well beyond creative measure. Like he was very adamant that like, I have nothing really more to say with this character. If I was, he was only really doing it, I think at that point, to fund and support his other endeavors and kind of build this empire that he has. But, there's something about Madea where it's just like, I don't think she'll ever truly die. I kind of wonder if she'll outlive Tyler Perry at this point. Like if someone else will eventually kind of take over the character, because, time and time again, like even when Tyler Perry doesn't really have much left to do or say with the character, she comes back. And there is something kind of oddly comforting about that. Like even, especially nowadays where the state of the world is just so in disarray, there is kind of something oddly comforting about the fact that there's still another Madea movie. And now it's on Netflix. You don't even have to go to the theater to see it. It's just straight on Netflix.
Death, taxes, and Madea movies. Those are our constants.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and that kind of goes beyond like the earnest thing. It's like now, like, she's just a prevalent part of pop culture. Like, I mean, there was a time, obviously, like the '90s, where it's just like there would just be a new Ernest movie, and then suddenly there wasn't because unfortunately Jim Varney passed away. But yeah, now just like Madea is just here, seemingly to stay. Or do you think she'll come back after this? I honestly don't really know what the plan is for a character after this film.
I feel like it's one of those things where, it's probably going to be a fixture. I mean, these movies are very cheap to make. Tyler Perry probably doesn't have to spend too much time, in terms of like the length of the shoot. Like you could probably shoot one of these things in a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, no. He's on record saying he shoots these like in a week. He shoots in the same amount of time he shoots like a sitcom. Yeah, that's a big thing about these later films. Yeah, like even his dramas, like he shoots now in a week. When I say like he makes these movies like a sitcom, I'm not exaggerating. Like he gets the crew that he's had making his shows, and he's just like, as a businessman, he's just thinking like, well, why would I spend 2 weeks or maybe like a month or so, maybe 2 months filming something that I can just kind of get done in a week if we just all really put the effort into it. But the thing is that like, I think that's the model he's taken since the first Boo movie. I could be wrong, but I think Boo was the first. That was like the phase where he like kind of like, I'm just basically making a feature length sitcom with these characters, which I mean kind of cuts the pretense of it a bit. In that like there was a time in the earlier Madea movies, arguably probably the better Madea movies, where he was actually making them like films. Like Madea was like not even the main character of most of them. Like she was just like, even if she had the title character or a title part, like she was often like a supporting character who would scold people for, their misdeeds or like kind of be a comforting ear for people in distress. And now like, since like Medea's witness protection, she's just become the centerpiece of these films.
Yes,
and that's
it's
like
Medea's world and we're all just living in it.
Right. And that's kind of like, on the one hand, it's kind of for the best. Cause just like, I feel like that's just like I said, kind of cutting the pretenses. And like, now we're just kind of getting to what people wanted from these movies from the get-go, but at the same time, it seems like Tyler Perry just doesn't really care or like these characters at this point. He almost seems to have sort of contempt for them, but he just like can't resist the urge to like go back to them, either for financial reasons or because like he doesn't want to like disappoint the fans. That creates this weird sort of tension I feel has been in the last few films. But I wanted to hear a little bit more from you and your relationship with these movies.
Yeah, so I mean, I've always kind of been attracted to, stranger comedies, I guess, things that, not necessarily like the things that are just like marqueed as critically beloved or making a ton of money. I kind of have an itch to kind of like dig into some things that are a little deeper. And I guess when I was in like early high school, late middle school, I started watching the Madea movies on like, like the premium cable channels like HBO, Showtime, whatever. I thought that'd be pretty funny and kind of interesting. I think especially the earlier films, they, having grown up in a very, evangelical bubble, there's a lot of Christian entertainment is not very good. And it was interesting to me to see like basic themes of Christianity play out in something that was like decently watchable, as opposed to, the kind of junk you watch in Bible class or whatever, like the cheesy Christian movies and Facing the Giants and all that stuff. But like,
it's almost like a VeggieTales for you. That's how I feel about VeggieTales.
Yeah, it was interesting, and yeah, VeggieTales was not bad. I mean, that was definitely the higher brow Christian entertainment growing up. I suppose like Bible Man or something, but yeah, it's interesting. I went to go see one in a theater for the first time when I was in high school. Madea Goes to Jail, in fact. And there is such, I feel like, a loving relationship with the audience of those movies and the movies themselves. Like, it's always been a stereotype, when you go to see a predominantly black film with a black audience, they're going to be kind of like interacting with the movie, like especially horror films. But there was just something different about just the way people would enjoy these movies. It was just kind of heartwarming almost. Like, it was just really fun to go watch a Madea movie on opening night and just like have the people in the audience just really engage with it in a way that kind of showed their love for the story. They're engaging with the drama of the story. It was really interesting. Like, it was, it's definitely something where I went to go see a few Madea movies, and every time it would just be, just, I don't know, you would just be bowled over with laughter because of some of the humor, and especially the early ones. They're actually pretty funny. I mean, Tyler Perry knows how to go for that, sometimes that cheap laugh that's, a little shameless, but, also very, very humorous. And, sadly, there was a point where those movies started to decline in quality a little bit. They stopped being, balanced between, competent filmmaking. Madea started to take more central focus. They weren't quite as funny. They were, again, like you kind of talked about, they were made on the cheap a little bit more. And, then when Medea's Family Funeral came out, I went to go see that in theaters, and it was you were laughing for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, man. Yeah.
It's very bad.
The nadir of the Madea franchise.
Yes. It's just the Uncle Heathrow-ness of all of it was very...
well, I mean, let's not lie. You have a love-hate relationship with this Uncle Heathrow character, I have to say.
Yes, I do. He's very funny, but it's like funny in like a train wreck sort of way, where it's just so bad, but it's just so humorous. I don't really know how to describe Uncle Heathrow. It's one of the characters Tyler Perry created.
Isn't he like a Vietnam vet?
Yeah,
he is paralyzed and like very
mildly
horny.
Canatotic, but like you're kind of wondering if he's still here or not. But
right, very horny.
Yes, very much so. He's a very randy old gentleman, but it's crazy. Like, I really enjoyed these movies growing up in like a sincere way. Like, I kind of get frustrated when people can't look at stuff like this as anything else but like ironic. Like, oh, look at this. Because Tyler Perry is a genuinely talented person. Like, and he understands his audience. Like, you could tell every time you go see one of those movies in theaters, like, he knows how to kind of reach a wide spectrum of people with, very, it's just, I enjoy a good blue collar comedy. I mean, it's kind of like, it's a little bit, and again, I think these films were a little bit higher in quality of what the blue collar comedy guys did in terms of their cinematic output. But it's kind of humor that can appeal to everybody. It's something that it's not funny in like a highbrow sort of way, but it's just funny in like everybody's going to think this is at least somewhat humorous, because Tyler Perry's Madea is just such an over-aggrandized, character of caricature, I suppose, of, kind of the women he had in his life, I'm sure, growing up. And it's just, I really look back on those theatrical experiences fondly because they were just so fun. I mean, it's just like you kind of go in, it's kind of like, it's almost like being at like a comedy club, and just like the atmosphere, everyone's buzzing, laughter is pretty prevalent throughout the entire movie. Obviously the drama is pretty melodramatic, but you can kind of have fun with that too, and kind of, reacting to what's going on. And it's just, they're communal. Like, and people talk about like the Marvel movies being communal and this, that. I don't know. Like some of my favorite communal movie experiences in my life have been Madea films. Like I'm being legit. Like they were incredibly fun to go to growing up. And like, you know, you think it's going to be in like an ironic way, but you know, when I look back on it, it was very sincere. Like you were legitimately having fun with the people in the audience watching these movies. And I kind of miss things like that. Like I just miss those type of broad comedies that get everybody in the theater. And Tyler Perry did well with making those things on the cheap and building his financial empire to the point. And what Tyler Perry doesn't get a lot of credit for, I think, in terms of when people look at his art, he's an incredibly philanthropic person. And the opportunities he creates for a very diverse workforce with his Tyler Perry Studios is really commendable. I mean, you know, he helped build up Atlanta's film scene. Like, I mean, people think it was, you know, Marvel this, Marvel that. No, I mean, Tyler Perry was at the ground floor before Atlanta was like even a remote production hub, creating his art there. And he is very much indebted in part for how Atlanta has risen as a production hub, you know, in the entire industry. I mean, I have a lot of respect for him. Like, can I say that all of his movies are good? No, like some of the latter Madea films are very bad.
Right.
But I think he's a very savvy businessman. I think he's a very good marketer. But at the same time, like I think he seemed like a pretty good dude. But at this, you know, he really created something that has lasted with, you know, his character and his movies. And I just feel like it makes me frustrated when people just kind of like chaff at this stuff and just kind of like, this is just, you know, whatever. Right. There's some legitimate things here with this Madea series that I feel like are worthy of praise. And, you know, as time goes on, I don't know how they're going to age. You know, I'm sure some of the ones that I enjoyed when I was younger probably haven't aged the best. But, you know, it's very much one of those things where, like, I give the guy props because he really tried to do something different, you know, and really tried to build this, you know, entertainment conglomerate around this character that could have been a flop. I mean, it really could have not worked in a very aggressive way, but it has worked for him. And even when it's not been very good, you know, which is, you know, sadly over the last, you know, 8-7 years, it's kind of the medium now. But like, you know, I have respect for the guy.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying, I think, is you're hitting the nail on the head because that communal vibe is so crucial to his success because it is really like a word of mouth type of success. Like he plays, you know, like they had like a roadshow theme and it was really based on like people being like, oh, you have to see this show. Like it's so funny. And then like he used that profit for like to market DVDs and like, you know, kind of put those out and people would see that and they'd be like, oh, I want to be a part of this experience. That helps promote the plays. And then, you know, he starts fledging a film career. I think initially kind of like build awareness for the character, maybe for these plays, but over time the movies just became more popular than the plays and it just made more sense for him to be like, why should I do the show, you know, all these days of the year when I can just make a movie and just not worry about it. And it's just, I mean, from a business standpoint, there's no denying that he's a very smart, savvy person. And like, he didn't become a billionaire by accident. Like he really figured out what he's doing. And yeah, like you said, like there is something very admirable about the fact that like, he is sort of like a, like kind of Roger Corman type figure, or like even like a Lloyd Kaufman type figure where he knew what was up against him and he just used the limited funds he was given to really, you know, build this huge empire. And like, you know, he's very savvy and very smart about his filmmaking. I do kind of wish he was given more opportunities to push himself more, but at the same time, he seems to be very aware of like, okay, like if I do this and I make this movie in this set number of days and I release it, I can kind of build my capital so I can make some more things nowadays I want to. Like, I think this movie, Medea's Homecoming, was made because he wanted to really make this passion project, this like noir bluesy drama called A Jasmine Blues. I don't know if you've heard about this. I think his next film after this. I think he actually shot it before Madea Homecoming, but it's a Netflix film. It's a period piece that he's been wanting to make since like, I think he was like 20 or something. And he's had the script for like since the 90s, and he's just been really trying to get that made. But, you know, even someone like him, it's been hard to push like a film like that. So I think it was kind of like one for you, one for me sort of thing with this. I don't know if it's for sure. Like, I haven't read this officially, but the vibe I get is that he brought back Madea because it was just like, look, Netflix is like, we'll fund this movie, but you have to do us a solid and give us a Netflix movie, or give us a Madea movie. And he was like, all right, fine, whatever.
Which ironically you could describe as a Netflix movie very accurately. I mean, this is exactly the type of kind of like filler content Netflix craves to make. Yeah.
But I mean, that kind of gets into like, so Medea's Homecoming is fascinating to me as well because like it's the one Madea movie that's probably the least a movie of all of them. It's basically content at this point. It's not a show, but it's just like an hour and a half of riffing with the Madea characters. It's not like he had like something vital he needed to say with this character to bring it back. This one has the least number of stakes, the least amount of plot. It's really like a very thin, like most of them have like a gimmick, like Madea goes to jail, like you said, it's Christmas time at Medea's house, or Madea has to host a funeral. Like this is just like people are coming to her house because she has another nephew who's valedictorian of college or high school. I think
it's law school.
So,
we're never exactly sure. Like it's kind of an undefined. Yeah.
The dynamic's very bizarre, and then somehow like that welcomes the presence of Mrs. Brown, not related to the character of Mr. Brown, but who is like the sort of like Ireland's Madea or Madea adjacent. Sort of, I don't know that guy. The actor who plays Mrs. Brown, but it's I guess sort of similar.
Carol, it looks, and it's the character's Agnes Brown.
Agnes Brown, but what was the actor's name?
Let's see, it is Brendan O'Carroll.
Brendan O'Carroll, but I heard it's like kind of a similar story where like he kind of came up, you know, like from like a sort of working class background, kind of used his awareness of like that meant like kind of like that relatability is so crucial to his success with that character. But yeah, it's like sort of something like you mentioned, like the blue collar guys. Like eventually, like he was just like, oh, I'm just gonna put Larry the Cable Guy in one of my movies. And it's just like you know, it's kind of like getting the blue collar audience while also you know kind of appealing to the same demographic. Yeah, and it's just like now it just like kind of feels like this like crossover event was like the main thing, but there's also like this weird borderline incestual storyline going on with his family.
It's one of those things where like you can tell more and more as time goes on that Tyler Perry really isn't putting that much like effort into the dramatic storyline, or that he's kind of like looking to make like a parody of what worked in his earlier movies. Like they're just so ridiculously dumb that it's like funny to like watch it like unfold, which the earlier Madea films are actually kind of serious, like especially something like Diary of a Mad Black Woman that has like Cicely Tyson in it. So it's like there's some legit, like, you know, they're really trying. And I Can Do Battle by Myself, which I think is the best movie that has Madea. I was going to say,
that's the one I'd say, if I were to, like, genuinely recommend one of these movies, I think that one's, like, not that bad. Like, it's pretty solid.
It's a
like,
good movie.
Taraji P. Henson gives a good performance in that. Like, it's, like, a solid film. And, like, and, like, you know, the Madea scenes are actually pretty thoughtfully executed and all that. And it's, like, like, it shows, like, when Tyler Perry really, like you said, he has the talent and he can kind of really push himself, but I think he just sort of stretches himself too thin, or he just really doesn't challenge himself that much at this point. And it seems like he's like kind of in this weird position in his career where he's like clearly working hard. Like you can't deny that, but you kind of frustrate because you watch like a movie like this. It's like, it's funnier than the last few Madea movies, at least in my opinion. And it's like, it seems like it kind of like a little bit more fresh than the other ones, but it's also just so clearly like he's just like doesn't have anything left to say with these characters, doesn't really want to do anything with it, and there's this real haphazard feel to it that's, you know, refreshing and frustrating in equal measure.
Yeah, I mean, I think the movie's okay. I mean, it is a definite improvement over how much of the recent Madea canon.
I mean, certainly an improvement over a Madea family funeral, as you mentioned. Certainly an improvement over Medea's witness protection, which is really the beginning of the downfall, I think.
Yes,
for him, certainly better than Boo 2, which I know you didn't see, but that one is just like literally a copy and paste of a Madea 1, which is barely a movie at that point. Like Boo is really just like there's like a whole like a 10-minute scene, without exaggeration, a whole 10-minute scene in that movie where it's just Tyler Perry talking to himself. Like it's him going back to Joe and like going like to like another character, or Brian he's playing. It's just like him just talking to him, and then Bam's just there. Aunt Bam is and it's just like this is really like Tyler Perry at this point is just really getting self-indulgent at this point. He just like really like just like, let me just show you what I can do as a filmmaker, and that as an actor really more than a filmmaker, and just kind of riffing with himself to the point of like it's almost borderline madness. Like at that point, it's just like, what are we even doing at this point?
How much Tyler Perry can you take? That's the thing. That's the fear of it, is how can you handle him interacting with himself so much?
Yeah.
What's your limit?
Yeah, because there's there's a trailer out now for The Unbearable Weight, A Massive Talent, and like the tagline for that's like the most Nicolas Cage movie ever. And I feel like every Madea movie is like the most Tyler Perry movie ever, because there's more and more Tyler. Yeah, what's that?
Without question. I mean,
yeah.
But I definitely feel like this film is the best Madea movie since Medea's Big Happy Family, which I actually really enjoyed. That's probably the last Madea movie where I really legitimately. That was 2011.
Yeah, that's the one with Bow Wow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I think that's the one I saw in theaters. So it's been a long time. But, and I miss that. I miss going to see Madea movies in theaters because it's just so fun. Like, it's just such a... I don't know. There's just so much dang irony out there, and just so much like, you can't just enjoy something to enjoy it, and just like enjoy being with people who are also enjoying something. And if it's not involves Spider-Man, it's just like we have to enjoy things with like a wink. And it's like that's the biggest like thumbs up I give to Tyler Perry is his movies are very genuine, even when they suck. They're very genuine. Like there's no irony. There's no like, I mean, maybe in some of the latter films you could argue that he's trying to like do parodies of his earlier movies.
Right.
Quite as involved, but like, these movies are what they are. And he has doubled down very aggressively on his filmmaking style. And I have to give some respect to that. Even when I don't think the movie's any good, like I just have to be like, you did your thing, you still did your thing. And this time it was a little more palatable than recent. Like, I don't really think this is like a great movie or anything. I think it's pretty mediocre in terms of like, it's much more, again, filler than something like Medea's Family Funeral, which is just so aggressively it's very unapologetic in what it's trying to do.
Yeah, that one. It feels more spiteful with that one. Yeah.
Yes.
He just feels like, is this really what you want? Like, is this really what you want me to do? And this way is more just kind of just like, yeah, let's just have some fun.
Exactly.
Right.
Because it's really interesting, because I don't think the Mans have been in one of these movies in quite some time. This is the first time that David and Tamela Mann have been in one of his movies since 2011, since Medea's Big Happy Family, which I don't think is necessarily a mistake. They're both pretty talented. Tamela Mann is a gospel singer and has an amazing voice, who plays Cora. I legitimately think that Mr. Brown's a very funny character. I really enjoyed his standalone movie. I haven't watched the TV show.
You mean Meet the Browns? Okay,
yeah. His like spinoff or however you want to put it. But this seemed like the first time. This felt like much more of what we came to expect with the Madea movies before Tyler Perry kind of aggressively monetized the character, because the other kind of that 2010s run was very built on like Madea does this. It was very much, they were much more earnest films later in the Ernest canon.
You mean earnest as in ERNEST, not EARNSET, right?
Yes, the Ernest canon of Ernest. Ernest canon.
Yeah.
Yes, but and honestly, I really feel like the trajectory of Ernest and Madea are incredibly in sync, because the earlier films were always regarded as the better ones, and then when they started to be more about kind of the financial potential rather than kind of indulging the idiosyncrasies of the character that were enjoyable, the quality started to dip aggressively. And it feels like Medea's Homecoming would have been the Jim Varney film he would have made in like 2005 or 6 if he had been able to still be with us at that point. That was more of a throwback to what people enjoyed. I would have loved to have gotten an Ernest Legacy sequel at some point. That would have been very enjoyable, but sadly, the memory of Jim Varney lives on, even though he's not with us anymore. But
Ernest, The Farce Awakens.
Yes, exactly.
It's
I would
true,
almost argue
all of it.
Yeah, all of it. That's right.
It's all true, Ernest. Sorry, Vern. Yeah. There you go.
I would almost argue this is like the Madea Legacy sequel. Like it feels like it's taking that vibe where it's bringing back the older characters. It's not just a Medea kind of run around do everything type thing. Just put her in a weird situation and see what she does. Like it's much more predicated on her family and the supporting characters, and the drama here is not quite as it's dumb. Like it's a very it's kind of like all the latter Medea films. Like there's really no it's very soap opera-y. It's kind of the whole bent of it. But the humor and the family elements seemed a lot more reined in, and it felt a lot more. I felt a lot more controlled, and I think that's the biggest compliment I give this film is that I feel like Tyler Perry really reined himself in a little bit more on the absurdist humor, just doing crazy things to do them just because I'm Tyler Perry and I can do whatever I kind of want to with these movies because he's kind of earned the right. But now, does that make it more of a mild affair? Sure. Like this is not like a so bad it's enjoyable watch like Family Funeral was, but it is more of a it's just kind of a nice little. You're back with these characters. It's kind of fun, but at the same time, like I'm not exactly gonna say this is like a great movie or anything. It's just it's fine. So
yeah, I mean, yeah. I wouldn't go so far as to call it a legacy sequel, only because I don't think that Perry is really commenting on the franchise that much to warrant the title of a legacy sequel. I think it just more. I just see it as like I think he got the incentive from Netflix. Like, look, we just want you to make another Madea movie. We'll fund your passion project. We just want this to be on our server. And he was just like, well, I just kind of want to just reunite with my collaborators right now, especially given that this was made during the pandemic. I feel like there's like a communal vibe, like you said, that him being like, I just want to kind of like be with my friends again and kind of just have fun riffing and stuff like that. And that I think does make it, if not a particularly good film, probably the most enjoyable Madea movie since
yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I mean, probably you're right. Probably since like Medea's Big Happy Family. Like, I mean, it just, even though this really doesn't have much going for it in terms of plot or character, and it does really wear its welcome out, even at like a pretty slim like 100 something minutes. Like most of the jokes here go on way past their expiration date. Like he'll have like kind of a funny idea for something. It just goes on and on and on and on. But yeah, but you see that opening scene with Mr. Brown where it's like, it's a very obvious joke. Like it's him like comically like putting all this gas onto a barbecue and it's going to blow up and he's going to like, burst into flames. But there is something like so broad and like cartoonish about it. And it does feel way more inspired than basically anything in Medea's Family Funeral. So it does. You see as opening scene, you're kind of just like, hey, like maybe this is like going to be one of the better ones. And I think it just kind of goes on too long to really justify saying that. But it does.
Yeah.
Little moments like that, and even like little interactions with Ma Brown or Mrs. Brown and Madea feel more fresh than pretty much anything that's been the last few Madea movies. Like it does seem like
absolutely.
He does seem like he is a little bit more reinvigorated again. Like this is the longest gap between Madea movies, I think. Even though it's not that long of a gap, like I think it's like 3 or 4 years, but it is, I think, the longest there's been between Madea films since he started this character. And it does kind of feel like if he's not inspired again, at least he does feel like a little bit more like rejuvenated. Like it's kind of just like he has a little bit more energy again. Like it does seem like he's kind of. He's got a little bit more pep in his step in a way that the last few Madea movies kind of felt like he was just tired and done with it all.
Oh, yeah, and, absolutely.
At least in that respect, I do think it's slightly better than what we've gotten from Tyler Perry in the last few years.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And this movie is way too long. It needed to be 90 minutes. I know people talk about movie length, but like no Madea film should be more than 90 minutes. That's long been the issue with this movie series is that these movies go way too long. I think some of the Madea movies are like pushing 2 hours. I think maybe one goes over.
Medea's Witness Protection, I think, is a straight 2 hours. I think it's 120 minutes.
Goodness gracious!
Yeah, and it's just like, what are we doing? Like,
you don't need that much Madea. Like nobody needs that much Madea. But I definitely feel like that these movies. I don't know who edits them, but they need a firmer edit. Somebody needs to like take some of these scenes out. Like we probably don't need the scene at the, here or there. Like, you can bring some scissors to it, but nobody's asking me. I don't need to have an opinion on this in the editing room. I'm definitely not equipped. But I do feel like that I felt the length. Like, you just kind of went on and on. It's like, okay, I know this is under 2 hours, but it's still like, we've done what we need to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we've kind of mentioned, there is sort of like a hanging out feel to this that is probably attributed to how shaggy it is, and that makes it, I think, one of the rare times where like that kind of like loose feel kind of plays to its benefit. But like you said, like there's just so many jokes. Like he basically just has like a premise and he just exhausts as much as worth. Like basically, Mrs. Brown says Ireland and Madea thinks it's Iran, and they. First time, it's like, okay, it's kind of whatever. I guess it's a cute joke, I guess. And he just does that 50 times. And it's just like, oh, my good. Like, we get it. She thinks Ireland is Iran. It's just like, how many times can we say this joke over and over again? But, yeah, I mean, there's two things I wanted to ask you about. One thing we kind of alluded to, and the other we haven't really addressed yet. The first is that, so this is like Madea in, the streaming era now. Like, she's going straight to streaming. Do you think that's for the better or for the worse? Because like you said, it's losing that communal vibe, but it does kind of feel like there's less pressure to like, be cinematic. Like it's maybe more forgivable that, the sitcominess because you're just watching it on your TV and Netflix. But do you think it's a benefit or a detriment?
I think it's a mix. I mean, I don't think Miss Madea is going to be back in theaters anytime soon, sadly. I'm going to miss seeing these movies in theaters whenever Now, admittedly, there was a certain point where the movies were getting such bad reviews, I didn't really bother with it going to theaters because it's kind of, but I'll miss it. I mean, I don't think it's ever going to go back. I think this is the organic step for a movie series like this, where Tyler Perry will do one of these every couple of years for Netflix, and it'll be there. And maybe one day Tyler Perry will start his own streaming service and create content for that. I could definitely see that happening. He's very entrepreneurial, but. I feel like that in the streaming era, there's less pressure for quality. It's just more about, the quantity and, just getting the thing out there. So I feel like this is probably going to be the medium for where these films go. I think they'll be a little less like, just look at what Adam Sandler's done with his Netflix stuff. Like, it's just very not great. Like, he's not really, Hubie Halloween is the only movie that really kind of got decent response that Sandler made for Netflix. Outside of like Meyerowitz stories or something, that doesn't
right. Well, that was just Netflix was distributing the film, not so much like they produced it. But yeah, I mean, like Hubie Halloween was okay, and what was it? The Week Of was okay, but even that,
that one was all right. Yeah,
the Week Of is actually probably a good companion piece to this one because it's like kind of similar, where it's like it's not a good film. It doesn't really have like pacing or plotting, but there is something kind of agreeably chummy about it at the same time. Yeah. But I agree. Yeah, I think that's a great companion or comparison piece. Is that like hopefully Tyler Perry uses like if he can kind of just like put a movie on streaming, sign a deal with Netflix, but he can kind of do like an I scratch your back, you scratch mine sort of thing. Like, hey, can you fund these movies I've been trying to get off the ground for like 2 decades, and I'll give you a Madea movie every like 2 or 3 years. That might be the happy medium. I mean, that'd be fine. I mean, if he can really push himself as an artist with some projects, and then just kind of like do a Madea movie here and there just to kind of, appease Netflix corporate overlords. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of similar to you where it's like, I feel like these movies, it's kind of perfect for Netflix because like you said, it's like the natural progression. Like it sort of feels like there's less expectations by putting these on Netflix. There's like, it's a lot more accessible that way, but at the same time, like you might be losing something that way. But I will say, I mean, I've only seen, like I said, Boo in theaters, and I was kind of hoping to have that theater experience that you were talking about. And I don't think I really did because it was a pretty much full house that I saw it in. I didn't really plan to see Boo in theaters. It sort of happened haphazardly. I don't really want to say I snuck into the theater with my friend after seeing Ouija Origins of Evil, but I did not do that. But the main thing I remember about that movie was that like people weren't really like engaging with the film, and that the guy right in front of me literally loudly farted just before the movie started. And I feel like that was both disappointing and very fitting for what the Madea theatrical experience should have been for me.
That's very accurate. That just sounds exactly like how that night was supposed to go.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I think when you're younger, you look at like the Madea series, and it's like, oh, these movies get terrible reviews. I want to go like, ironic watch this like you would with like one of the Friedberg Seltzer movies, like just like, see how stupid and bad it is. But like,
it's definitely above those films for
oh
sure.
yeah, that's the thing. Like when you go watch it, you should be like, oh, this is really funny. Everyone's enjoying this. Like this is great. People are enjoying the movie, and it's just like it was really nice, and it's just. I think that's why I look back on these movies a lot more fondly than my experiences being a dumb high school student trying to like laugh at like epic movie and like Meet the Spartans and stuff like that. 'Cause obviously that stuff is aged rancidly, but I would definitely take any Tyler Perry film over any of that any day of the week. That stuff is rough.
Yeah. Well, then my second question for you then is that I don't think this movie is technically rated, but if it was, it would be the first R-rated Madea film.
It would be, yeah.
I don't think it was really like they intended to make an R-rated Madea film. I think they sort of just like, can we do this? Can we just not censor ourselves? So there's just like there's more cussing, there's more swearing, and there's more overtly drug references in the film. And I just wanted to hear from you. Do you think that's a benefit or detriment to this film and for this character as a progression point?
It's probably a little bit more true to form for what Perry had in mind with kind of the character. Like obviously earlier in especially when it had the faith slant, like you can't do R. Like these movies have to be accessible for a wider audience. But this one's a lot more, I feel like, probably a little bit more of what Perry's wanted to do all along. And when you go to Netflix, you've got the creative freedom to do that. So I feel like that he got to make more of a Madea movie. That I'm guessing that was part of what enticed him. Is that Netflix was like, oh yeah, if you want to give Madea an F-bomb or here or there, yeah, why not? Like, who cares?
Right.
Like, and he was like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds fine. Why not?
Yeah, because I was wondering because because he probably made the other movies PG-13 not because like he really wanted to, but more just like I'll bring a wider audience. I don't limit them with an R rating. But now he's like that's not really a concern. Everyone can see it no matter what. It's just like why not just make it R?
Yeah, and it's a very tame R. Like it would be like R for language and some suggestive content, like something like that. It would be, it's not really. We're not going for like a Scorsese movie here, or like a like an Apatow comedy. Like it's very a very very accessible R-rated film, I would say.
But do you think the other ones will get more raunchy as they go along? Or do you think this is just kind of the wheelhouse for now?
I think this is the limit. I think with Tyler Perry, it's kind of like. He's never going to
right. He doesn't want to alienate. Yeah, he doesn't want to alienate his evangelical fan base.
Yeah,
he does
absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
And like this movie is not going to like tick anybody off. Like they're going to be like, oh, there's a swear, but it's not going to, But I definitely feel like that in the future we'll see probably more stuff like this where it's like, I'm sure there's like outtakes where Madea swears and stuff. So he probably was just kind of like. We'll keep this take in. Why not? It's funnier with the swear, so we'll make it work.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of the opinion that I think the swearing was a surprise for me. Like the first time you hear Madea drop the F-bomb in like the first 5 minutes, it was like genuinely kind of surprising. I was like, oh,
yeah, it's kind of funny.
Well, geez, like okay, now we're doing this. But
once you said it, I was like, oh, there's their one, and then somebody said it again. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't see that coming.
More dollars in the swear jar for this one. But yeah, I mean, with the weed stuff, just felt very, like you said, very tame and kind of lazy. Yeah, like
you could put that in a PG-13 movie. Like it's not.
But it felt like weed comedy from someone who doesn't do drugs. Like it didn't really like seem like I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Tyler Perry does,
which would be very applicable for someone like me, who
right? Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, just like it didn't really like I don't know. From my limited experiences doing drugs, none of it felt like accurate to me as far as like what the experience was like. But at the same time, it is a change. Like it does show that he is trying to like. Very mildly push the character in different directions, which I guess is technically progressive, but at the same time,
why not?
It's not really transgressive, but it's progressive, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I didn't know if it was if that was a plus or a minus for you watching this film. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you have any other major thoughts on the film? We should probably talk about the Rosa Parks thing at some point, but
Yeah, that scene is it's there. It's
well,
I don't know.
yeah. I mean, the Rosa Parks thing and the Beyonce homage during the end credits.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say they're on the same level, but they kind of weirdly have a similar thing for me where it's like they're both the most inspired scenes in the film. Mm-hmm. And also I don't really know why they're in this film.
Yeah, it's I really enjoyed the Homecoming parody because you probably should have seen that coming because the movie's called Homecoming, and
right, yeah, it's also a Netflix. Yeah.
Which is grown to be a pretty well-known concert doc now. Really, a really good one too. Much better than this movie. I will say that. Beyonce's Homecoming is
no
awesome,
question. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
The Rosa Parks theme is just really awkward. Like, only Tyler Perry could get away with this. Like, it's one of those things where it's just like, this is kind of par for the course for the Madea films. So,
right.
Let it be.
I mean, I don't know. It was just more baffling to me than anything. Like, I'm sure
very strange.
Like if you describe it to someone, it sounds like, oh, that sounds horrifically offensive. But watching
absolutely.
But watching it just mostly just kind of weird. Like, it's just like,
what
is this?
It's just. And it's like clearly Madea is like being facetious. Like, it's not like Tyler Perry's not trying to rewrite history or anything. But
I mean, they push it so farly and so far into broad comedic territory. It's like meant to be like, oh, this is not meant to be an accurate depiction of history. But
this is not Tyler Perry's reimagining of important moments in his. Yeah, that would be quite a conversation starter. But
But yeah, also I think like him being like, oh, like I need to like rent out a historically accurate 50s bus. It's like, oh, why do you need that? Oh, just need it.
Just need it. Yeah.
Movie. Like, I also need some like 50s like office equipment, like period accurate stuff. Like I guess we can allow this in the budget, but can you tell us why? Yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It's a flashback. Oh, okay, flashback. All right.
Yeah, we're just gonna see Medea's early years. Oh, okay, that should be fun.
Yeah, that made the cut. Did not get edited out of the movie.
But do you think that's something he's been wanting to do for a while, or that's just like an idea that came to him rather?
I could see him wanting to like do more things like that, where it's just kind of like, because it's in black and white, so it's just like it's just little asides like that with like, I got Netflix money now, I can kind of get away with this as opposed to having to like pay for it myself. So it's just like might as well. It's not your money. Spend it how you want. Like, that's what I would do if I were making a Netflix
I guess,
movie.
yeah. You would do this if you had Netflix money?
I don't know if I would do this exact thing for a variety of reasons. But
yeah, I was going to say.
I would definitely have a little bit more fun with my budget for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's pretty much all I really had to say about Medea's Homecoming. We've been almost talking for an hour now. I don't know how much more we can
Of course we would. Like, if you've listened to us do this, of course we're going to almost spend an hour talking about the new Madea movie. Like, I'm sure like an offset, it's like two white dudes talking about Madea movie. That seems weird. But then you kind of look at the history of our podcasting and it's like, it's not that weird. It's kind of what we do.
I mean, I don't know. I think we were fairly respectful, right? I don't think we did anything.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
cancel worthy here, hopefully.
No. I think that people might turn this off just for like a exhaustion of
I mean, if you're still sticking around, I mean,
props.
Kudos to you. I mean, now we're just kind of just delaying this out. I mean, I'm just how you doing?
I'm good, man. I mean,
you want to try to push this to an hour, to a flat hour?
Mean,
we got 7 minutes. We gotta go.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do.
All right,
you are on a desert island.
Okay,
and you can only pick 3 Madea movies.
Okay.
To have for the rest of your, sad, miserable existence. I don't know where you're gonna like watch a movie on an island, but you got like a little portable.
I'll get a coconut and just
exactly. Coconuts have streaming services now.
Yeah,
that's everything does. So you get 3. What are going to be your 3?
My 3 Madea movies or my 3 Tyler Perry movies? Madea. I'd probably pick. I mean, I can do Batman by myself for sure.
Okay.
It's pretty easy. After that, I want to say probably Medea's Big Happy Family. That one feels a little bit more inspired than the last few. And I'll probably go Diary of a Mad Black Woman.
Okay.
What about you?
I would, yeah, go ahead.
No, that was it. That was all I had to say.
That's it. That's all you got to say. I would agree with the first two. I would definitely take I Can Do Battle by Myself and Medea's Big Happy Family, but I'll throw you a twist and I'll take Medea's Family Reunion. The second film in the Madea
Yeah, I was thinking
canon.
between the two of those. Yeah, I might actually do the same. Now I think about it more.
There we go. Yeah. Very good. All right. Let's see. I feel like we'd be remiss without talking about Tyler Perry's like randomly strange appearances in like big like Oscar movies, like where he was in like Gone Girl and Vice.
He's great in those. Yeah,
he is. He's very, very good. He's a great Colin Powell.
Yeah, I mean that's something I think that people like overlook is that he's scarily good as Colin Powell, and he's pretty. I mean, he's one of the few actors I think that don't embarrass themselves and don't look up. Like he gives a pretty decent performance in that. So I mean, when he's just in supporting actor mode, I think he's a dependable talent. Like I think he can hold his own. I don't think he's much of a yeah. Go
ahead.
I was gonna say he's not really much of a leading man outside of Madea. Like I will say, like when he becomes Madea, like I don't think that's Tyler Perry. I'm just like that is, that is Madea. Like I don't think of him.
He disappears into the role in a very convincing way.
Yeah.
But you were talking about Jazzman's Blues. That does come out this year. And it is a straight drama film. He wrote and directed and produced it. And it's coming. It filmed last year, so we'll have to do like a bonus episode and talk about that.
I'm honestly, I'm genuinely looking forward to it. Like I'm curious to see what it is. Too. Like I want to know
anything about it till today.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I'm not setting my expectations too high, but like it's like if this is something he's been wanting to make for a while, I mean, I think we've said it already, but like I feel like his recent films are not like for a lack of talent, but more that he just doesn't really apply himself that much. He's kind of stretches himself thin, but if he really concentrates his effort to make this, might be the one. I mean, I don't know if you've seen For Color Girls, but
is it good?
For Color Girls is not a great film, but there are moments in that where like, he's mostly just directing that one. Like, he's basing off another person's play and, he's rewritten some of it. And so like, there's some clunky dialogue at times, but like him primarily directing some of those scenes, like it is high melodrama, but it's better than most of his other, like you can tell, like if he applies himself as a director, he might do something really compelling.
And that's the thing, like he tried to do a pretty hard R comedy a few years ago called Nobody's Fool.
Oh I forgot about that one.
And it was not good at all.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That was a letdown. So I would definitely say this Medea's Homecoming is a lot better than that. But, well, I wouldn't say a lot better. It's somewhat better than that one was.
That was right after Medea's Family Funeral, right?
I think so. No, like that was right before. That was 2018. Yeah.
But didn't he film it? Like I think it came like Medea's Family Funeral came out after they filmed it like a way before they released it. I think, if I recall correctly.
Maybe I could see that
because I'm pretty sure he's like, all right, I'm done with that Madea stuff. Now I'm gonna be a series, like I'm gonna be a studio director now, and like that was a big flop, like his first flop, and maybe his whole career as a director, to be honest.
And it was strange too because you're getting Tiffany Haddish right off a Girls Trip. It's got Whoopi Goldberg in it. Chris Rock has a small role. Like I mean, you're kind of like. It should have been better. Like it wasn't a terrible movie, but it was just very middle of the line.
Yeah, it was just very middle of the road. Yeah, it was just like, like he, I mean, like it's not like his sensibilities were wrong for the project. It just didn't really have much spark to it.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, that was just I honestly forgot about it until you just mentioned it. So that was not that's not had a long recess in my mind. I'll say, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope for the best for him because I don't know.
Yeah, I do too.
I kind of just want him to succeed, even though he's given me no real reason to feel that way a lot of the time.
I think he's easy to root for. I mean, I think he's, he seems like a pretty nice person, and he's, very generous with his money, and he's done good things, He's definitely put good into the world, outside of the Boo series, but,
I mean, I will say that, like, from what I've heard, like, especially during COVID, he was very, like, protective and made sure people had, like, especially, like, a lot of, like, his primarily black team staff members have like, been like very looked after and like protected, especially during the pandemic. And
Absolutely.
I mean, it seems like, like he's a very conscientious businessman. So like, I mean, I hope that reflects well on his character, but I mean, I don't know him personally. But yeah, I mean,
if he ever wants to come on our show, we will.
Absolutely. Oh, I'd love to talk to him. I mean, I'd just love to pick his brain.
Yeah.
Like unironically, I'd love to just talk to him and figure out like his business method and everything.
That's
like,
the thing.
Yeah.
I sincerely hope there's not even a hint of irony in any of this conversation, because
I'm fascinated by him. I think he's a fascinating dude.
I am too. I'm definitely, because I would consider myself a Tyler Perry fan. I would. I definitely, not everything's going to work, but for the stuff that does, it keeps me interested.
Yeah, I'm not a fan, but I just find him to be a fascinating guy, and I kind of want him to come out of this doing something good, but I don't know. I mean, the movies themselves, he has amassed a pretty impressive body of work. Maybe not in terms of quality, but certainly in terms of quantity. And the only other thing I forgot to mention in our review was the Red Lobster stuff.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Definitely seen in that movie.
No, I think that's a Netflix thing where like now that like they can't really advertise like during their shows and stuff, they have to put advertising in their products. Yeah. And I feel like, hey, like, can you like, if we write a big fat check to Red Lobster, if Red Lobster writes us a big fat check, can you like do some stuff with Red Lobster? He's like, I guess like they have this big, and there's like a couple of shots of food that I don't even know if he even did, but they're like easily the best shot scenes in the film of just like lovingly crafted shots of food, and just like it was just so jarring because it's just like there's like lighting in these shots, like shadowing, and like it was just like, and it's just like
the food does not look that good.
I know, but the camera work there was way above the line for everything else in this movie. It was just incredibly jarring. It was just very jarring stuff. So yeah, I wanted to mention that at some point, but yeah, we're past the hour point. Unless you have anything,
the last thing I'll say is that if we're kind of looking at his new movie, he's doing kind of the Jazzman's Blues film. It took a month to make. He really put some time into that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So it's like that one might be something to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe so.
My guess that they're going to try to kind of push that for Oscars. I don't think it's going to maybe get anything, unless it is actually genuinely really good, which who knows?
That would be something, yeah.
So I'm guessing it's probably going to get a fall release. Maybe even in theaters. I don't know if they're just going to put that.
Okay, here's my thing. If Peter Farrelly can win an Academy Award for Green Book, then surely Tyler Perry can.
I mean, Tyler Perry has an Oscar.
He got because they gave him one of the honorary ones, right?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, so we can add.
He is technically an Oscar winner. Yeah, for for all he's done, mostly his humanitarian work, but I mean he does not for his craft yet though. So
hey, the day is still coming. Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm really genuinely fascinated to see if that movie's any good. I don't know, but I'm not looking. That one's not like any sort of ironic appreciate. That's me. Like I hope for the best for this because I want it to be good. But anyway, yeah.
We hit 63 minutes.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Stop. Let's see ya.